Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast with KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and Najee Moye.
Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone. I'm Niko Tamurian. Najee, what's going on, my friend?
Niko, what is going on, man? What is really actually going on, to be honest?
Do we ever even know?
Do we ever really know? I don't really know what's going on, but we had a crazy weekend just past this Thanksgiving weekend. Lots to be thankful for.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy late Thanksgiving. Belated Thanksgiving. We're at the kicking off the holiday season. We're kicking off confusion season for for one team, and actually one team headed to on the way to the college football promised land, I should say. What do we think, Niko?
I think this is one of them. This might be seen as like, oh gosh, Niko, you're being dramatic or you're going over the top. I think this might be one of the most impactful weekends of football in Seattle in years.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how many years I'd want to put on that. Definitely not, Super Bowl level, obviously.
No.
It wouldn't be like 10 years or longer, but it would be in the last few years because you've got the Seahawks needing a win. They've lost 3 of 4. You've got a team that really needs a win to keep those playoff hopes chugging along. And then you've got the Huskies playing for a different kind of playoff, a much more exclusive playoff, the college football playoff. The winner of UW Oregon has to get in.
Yeah.
And all of the work, 12-0, is amazing and historic and wonderful as it is for the Dogs. If you lose this game and you're in the Fiesta Bowl, it's a good season. It's not this mythical season. It's a very good season. Nobody should take it away from them. But as far as those Dog fans that want and expect the absolute most, that's essentially what this ends up being.
Yeah, I mean, this ends up being, and Niko is actually, he's a lot nicer than I am. First of all, we've mentioned this on the podcast several times. This is a very impactful weekend, but this is actually the next most impactful weekend, I believe, since this last weekend, which was also another impactful weekend. Yeah, really. I mean, we're talking about Thanksgiving. Like I was, we're all sitting around on Thursday watching, on having a great Thanksgiving meal. Lots to be thankful for. And one thing I was to be thankful for is that I didn't watch the entire Seahawks game, unfortunately. Because
that's so mean, but true.
It's true because, and I think the score was the same score. It looked to be about the same score as that NFC wildcard game last year. It looked very similar. And the game looked similar as well. We saw a Niners team that is head, shoulders, maybe not knees and toes, but head, shoulders, and maybe elbows above the Hawks. I mean, you mentioned, Niko, 3 or 4, and honestly, all the Hawks wins have been on last-second touchdowns, field goals, everything. And, what we have here is we have as – in the same boat, we've got one team paddling backwards a bit, trying to figure out where to go in the Hawks, and another team, again, with the close games recently. I'm talking about you, the Huskies, but paddling forward specifically to a place where there's no water in Las Vegas against the Oregon Ducks.
Hoover Dam nearby?
Well, no, is that natural?
You can't really swim there, though.
You can't swim there. No, you can't paddle in it. Surely, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Someone will probably tell us. But anyway, I mean, I'm stoked about the Pac-12 championship game because I mean, Ducks Huskies too. And honestly, you said it best, Niko. The Huskies have to win, and in a different way than the Seahawks probably have to win.
Didn't mean to hit my microphone there.
Yeah,
sorry,
but
guys.
No, the Huskies definitely have to win. And the only thing that we can really hope for, one, is a Huskies win against the arrogant Ducks. But we can hope for, and we can almost expect another all-time classic between the Huskies and the Ducks on this last, I want to call it, the Pac-12 is not going away, but this is the Pac-12 that we all know and love. Exactly.
Yeah.
In the last Pac-12 championship game in Las Vegas.
And it's sad. And just like it was sad to see the last Apple Cup.
Yeah. There was a lot of sadness this past weekend about
it was freezing
the Pac.
Too.
Well,
it was a beautiful day, but freezing.
The Apple Cup and just around the Pac-12, just people watching. I tuned into the little bit of Pac-12 After Dark. Speaking of that, a little bit of Cal UCLA, and people were just kind of, wow, memories.
End of an era.
But I'm sorry, I digress. I'm getting weepy-eyed.
Well, I think that it's fitting, good or bad, depending on what school is your allegiance, that UW and Oregon are this last ever Pac-12 title game as we know it. And we've talked about this the last few weeks, Nash, where I really hate the fact that, listen, Oregon may very well win this game. They are incredibly talented.
Right.
And it was a barn burner at UW. And to be honest with you, I think the Huskies got the edge there because Dan Lanning made some really curious decisions, not just at the end of the game when it mattered most. I'm going for that fourth, but also earlier in the game, trying to go on another fourth down and not kicking a field goal. When you lose by a field goal, that starts to kind of reflect hindsight's 2020. But
right,
you could make the distinct argument that their coach cost them the game, and maybe that's why folks are saying like, oh well, the Oregon's going to win this game, and the UW got lucky, and it was in Seattle. I'm like, guys, if we all knew this,
that's not the point.
That's not right.
Yeah.
If we all could predict games like that, as I almost fall back in my chair out of
Niko's
disgust.
chair has been
Does not
sabotaging
like me
him.
It's like you lean back and then you're like saved by the picture of Dubs behind his shoulder.
Saved by Dubs. Saved by Dubs.
Good doggy.
Good dog.
I just don't, I just don't get the idea where everybody's like, oh, Oregon's going to trounce them. And I'm like, based on what? Because UW's played some close games. To me, that means they know how to gut it out.
Yeah.
And when Oregon was in a tight game with UW, guess what? They folded. Their coach made terrible decisions. I'll go back to the beginning of this point. The Ducks may very well win this game. But this notion that everybody's out there saying like, wow, they're going to crush UW and they're favored by 11 for a reason. I don't buy that.
No one's getting crushed in this game.
It's just UW knows they know the road.
Yeah.
Second longest win streak in the nation, only behind Georgia. It's just a team that's been there. And, if they're going to lose to Oregon Friday, which again is possible, it's a touchdown or less, in my opinion. And watch they get run off the field or something like that.
Well, the thing is,
but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no reason to suspect that that's going to happen.
Well, I just don't think the Huskies will lose against Oregon. That's
sure. I agree with you.
And you mentioned all the close games. I mentioned all the close games, and it's a legitimate skill that a team has, just like passing the ball from 500 yards, as the Huskies have been known to do.
Yeah.
As far as well as playing great defense and winning a close game is a skill that the Huskies have and a skill that the Seahawks also have, but they weren't demonstrated that this past Thursday. Here's the thing. We all saw the Apple Cup and we all were very, very, everyone across the whole entire state. And I hope people across the country were watching as well to show exactly what we're doing here in the Evergreen State as far as football goes. I mean, the Cougs look great.
It's a shame they had that slide midseason.
Yeah,
that's Cougs a team that's great. Certainly capable and bowl caliber. They just hit a slide.
Cam Ward looked fantastic.
I like Cam Ward.
And it was. I mean, in the Apple Cup, like it is, oftentimes it's going to be who has the ball last, kind of like the Ducks game. The Huskies Ducks game, who has the ball last, essentially. When all these teams, especially college football teams, are so evenly matched. Now, I'm not considering Wazoo to be evenly matched against the Huskies. When we saw that they are 3-point. They're about 3 points celebrating them. As I said weeks before, that is one game that has nothing to do with almost X's and O's. That game is all passion, all hatred, all fight,
Yeah.
This Ducks Huskies game is similar, but again, this is the first instance where you're seeing a team for the second time. This could be good or bad for the Huskies. That being said, and do you think Dan Lanning is going to learn some things on the Ducks side? Maybe just kind of reining it back a bit. I watched watch the Ducks play against Oregon State. In the Civil War, and there was no reining anything back. I mean, that was their version of the Apple Cup in the Oregon version, but there's no reining anything in. I think we're going to see a very fun game. It's a neutral site game, which I think could play, could have some impact. We're not in Oregon or Washington. Viva La Vegas. La Vegas?
Yeah, and everybody, Penix this, Penix that.
Viva Las Vegas.
Oh, I like that.
That was.
He had to play in the rain. He had to play in the freezing cold at UW last week.
Right.
None of that's a factor on Friday.
Nope.
So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens. Obviously, we're intrigued by the matchup and
a big matchup of Heisman Trophy contender quarterbacks as well.
Yeah, I also don't buy this whole like, oh, look at the numbers. If Bo Nix is a Heisman caliber quarterback, I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying Penix is light years or something ahead of him, but like, shouldn't winning like if UW wins again this weekend, they will have swept the Ducks and Nix. Like, how do you give Nix the nod over Michael Penix? I'm not factoring out Jaden Daniels or anything with that. I'm just saying as far as like those two guys go in the vote. You know what I'm saying?
Well, specifically, I mentioned this last week in reference to Jaden Daniels when he threw 8 touchdowns against Georgia State. We saw that Michael Penix is undefeated against a lot of really, 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 really good teams, including Oregon.
Yeah.
So, but I think honestly, both because Bo Nix has had a fantastic season as well. Both him and Penix should get the invite to go to New York.
I think so.
I think
they
too.
will.
Yeah, I think so too.
I was reading the latest odds that Daniels is the favorite. Nix is the second as far as the odds makers are concerned, and Penix is third. I don't like that. I can get it. Maybe we're a little, we talked about the East Coast bias before on the show. Maybe that's a little bit of a West Coast bias.
Right. Well,
But
as I said, I hope everyone in the country was watching the Apple Cup this past weekend.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, just to get a flavor of what the Pac-12 is really about.
I think so, and I hope so.
Yeah.
I'll say this: this game, if you're looking at UW and maybe some areas to improve upon as they played in these close games, again, to me, it's like so many people out there are like, well, if you're a national title team, you're going to blow teams out by 30 every week. Well, they've been playing a lot of ranked teams, and man, the Cougs weren't ranked, but it didn't matter. It's a rivalry with all the other.
They may as well be ranked.
They may as well, as far as that matchup with everything surrounding it was concerned, may as well have been a top 10 game.
Right.
So it just means to me, as you observe this team, and if you're a championship caliber team, you win when the lights are the brightest, and it's just like the utmost testament of, all right, who's going to get this win and who's going to come up big in the final second. And in October 14th, that was the Dogs, not the Ducks.
And you were there, Niko.
I was there.
You
can have Dan Lanning's miscues. Even Oregon's kicker missed the game tying kick at the end. I mean, there were many opportunities for Oregon to win that game. And to some, it's an indication, well, because they played, a terrible, poor, whatever you want to call it, game, that's why they're going to beat the Dogs this time around. But who's to say they played so poorly or made those bad decisions because UW? Why isn't anybody talking about that?
Yeah. I know
we talk about it, but like, it's just,
we do, but I will say this though: UW's defense has gotten a lot better.
Oh my goodness, no question.
It's almost 9 days since I have talked on and on about how we talked about how good the Huskies schedule has been, and some of that my complainings about their defense is because they played great offensive teams in the Pac-12. I mean, even Stanford threw up a lot of points against them.
Yeah, they did.
So, but I think we're kind of reining that in a bit, and I feel like we're going to see a different sort of game than we saw in Montlake earlier this year. I think we'll see. I don't want to get into scores right now, but we can. Niko,
I got to make an extra point here first.
Oh, Niko's got some things to say, guys.
I do.
You got some things to say. What?
And it's really a continuation of what you and I have both said.
Yeah.
This is all going to get sorted out Friday night.
Right.
They're just some you might say it's not even worth the breath because my opinion, a national expert's opinion, so-called national expert's opinion, it doesn't matter by the time we get to about 8:30 Friday night. But this has been brewing for weeks, and it's part of something. I think I've made this point on this show before, that it's a real shame that you have decisions being made, and thankfully the college football playoffs a different animal now. Like the committee is locked in.
Can you imagine the BCS?
But do you remember the BCS?
I remember the BCS.
Do you remember way back when I was a little kid, when it was the voters that do like the AP polls? The national champion was who was number one in the AP poll at the end of the year.
Oh yeah,
and that was insane. It's so stupid.
Yeah,
that sort of thing still comes into play today. You're talking about folks that are watching one team or maybe seeing what they see on SportsCenter highlights and determining, well, that's why this team is going to win, or that's why this person is going to win the Heisman Trophy. And that's what the point I want to make right here before we get to our score predictions. This is my extra point. It's amazing to me, the most important and prestigious trophy, maybe in all of individual accolades of sports, maybe outside of like an Olympic medal. We're talking about the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
It has way too many voters on it. And Najee, did you know that a lot of the voters, they have until December 4th to submit their vote?
That's soon.
A lot of the voters have already submitted their ballot.
Okay, so
that is ridiculous.
Already have submitted ballot
yes.
as of
without
pre-Thanksgiving.
You can do it Thanksgiving. You can do it anytime in that window. My point, I guess, is that I'm trying to make in that regard, Naj, is that there will be potentially hundreds of Heisman votes from esteemed journalists across the country that are good at their job in so many respects. But they're like, you know what? I've seen enough. It's Jaden Daniels.
Ugh, well.
I've seen enough. It's Bo Nix or whatever it is. What if Michael Penix throws for 500 yards? Do you remember what happened? The same thing happened last year where Caleb Williams won the Heisman. And you know why he won the Heisman?
Why?
Because people didn't want to be bothered with their vote around Thanksgiving. They wanted to enjoy the holiday. They submitted their vote, and then guess what happened? Caleb Williams tanked it in the Pac-12 title game. Now, I'm not disputing that he's the number one pick in the draft next year. I'm not disputing that he'll be a successful NFL quarterback. There's nothing there. But you know what? Michael Penix should have gotten the Heisman over him last year. And there's probably a couple other guys that could have made that claim. The reason Caleb won, as prodigiously talented as he is because folks submitted those votes early before he had an incredibly awful showing against Utah. Now, I'm not saying one performance negates everything else he did.
No.
But I'm also saying that one performance on a championship stage that can send your team to the college football playoff, same opportunity that's ahead here for UW and Oregon, and you absolutely lay an egg in that game, you shouldn't win the Heisman.
Scoff. Oof.
Right.
I completely agree with you. And
that's my extra point. It gets me so mad.
I follow your extra point up with
this
this.
Camera got way too close on me.
I follow this is dramatic.
It's like you're yelling.
You're doing a good thing. We're zooming in on you. This is your promo, Niko. Niko, I agree with you, first of all. And you mentioned Jaden Daniels, and I agree with you.
Okay.
My follow-up to that point is if your team is not in a conference championship game, you cannot be eligible to win the Heisman.
Okay.
If your team is ranked 13th in the nation, you can't be eligible to win the Heisman.
The only thing I'd be okay. You're right. The only way I'd be okay with that is if it was just some astronomical season, like 80 touchdowns. I know that would never happen. I'm just, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, when you throw 8 touchdowns against Jordan State, your stats can get padded. Things can happen, I put a big emphasis on winning. In the past, the Heisman voters have done the same thing. Essentially, I'm thinking specifically about Alabama winners, who's over the years. But I completely agree with you. I think he's probably deserving. I don't think he'll win. I mean, we think of what Nix, Daniels, and Penix sent to New York.
I think any one of those guys are certainly of the caliber to win it. My problem is the votes being submitted early. And let's say, like, I'm just going to throw a scenario out there because it would appear, even if I disagree with it at the moment, that Bo Nix is probably ahead in the voting, right, at this very second. Let's say Bo Nix ends up winning the Heisman, but UW trounces Oregon 35-0 in the conference championship.
Well, yeah,
and it's a similar scenario to what we saw with Caleb last year.
Which could happen, by the way.
Like this notion, I forget which journalist it is, but it's a national writer. I really respect him. I'm so sad that his name is escaping right now. But one thing he does, the college basketball AP poll is done in a similar way where it's voters every week, right? And you submit your top 25. Now, basketball is especially hard because there's games all week.
Yep.
Any given team may play 2 or 3 times in a week, and you have to do rankings based on that. And he points out the worst voters of the week. And there's some really atrocious things in there. Like, I remember seeing, I can't remember the schools. I'm just going to throw 2 schools out there. Like, okay, let's say that Cal beat Stanford by 30 points, and then this voter ranks Stanford 8 spots ahead of Cal in the poll. Like, you see stuff that's that ridiculous. And that's what comes back to this Heisman voting thing. There's too many voters. Many of them are doing the right thing. Many of them are waiting until after this weekend, and they have until Monday the 4th to submit. You got 3 days, after Friday or Saturday championship games to figure that out. But there's a lot of people that are, it's I don't want to say lazy, but it kind of is lazy, or it's just not right.
What if we bring back the whole? This is gonna be a bit of a throwback. The whole just text your votes, just text your votes
like a fan
that
vote?
Night, like it's American Idol. I think that's a better idea. I mean, I feel like and I think a lot of people didn't know that, by the way, what you just brought up about when the votes are cast.
Yeah,
that they've already been cast essentially. Yeah.
And that I hate that because. Again, let's say, there's reports out there that Penix is probably in 3rd right now.
Wow.
What if he throws 6 touchdowns, 0 picks, plus the game winner, 40 yards to Roma Dunze, lifts his team on his shoulders, gets UW back to the college football playoff? But it's for nothing because, so-and-so in Cincinnati I'm sorry, Cincinnati, nothing against you. I just picked your city because it was alliteration with so-and-so.
So-and-so.
Submitted their vote on Monday or Tuesday of this week.
But you know what?
I just think that's really just.
If that does happen, Michael.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, Michael Penix.
Oh, you mean this scenario? I'm sorry.
Scenario.
Yeah.
But if that does happen, what he will have 2 wins against Oregon, and a trip to the national to the top 4, which is which is the last year of the top 4 actually, because now we'll have everyone in the playoff next year. Let's talk about scores really quick, Niko. I don't think we'll see the same type of. We'll see an instant classic. It may not be the whole. I mean, I don't. My heart can't do another game like we had in Motley earlier this year. I'm going to predict a Huskies win naturally. because I feel like somehow Dan Lanning is going to ruin this for his own team. I don't know how, but and maybe it'll be slightly different. I think it'll be more of a defensive game. You won't have things happen like two of Oregon's cornerbacks getting hurt in the same play or something like that. I don't see that happening. I think it'll be more of a defensive battle. I think Oregon's team, our defense was always really, really good. And I do think that the Huskies defense has gotten better. I'm going to predict a 21-17 game.
Oh, okay. I'm going for a lot more points. I think the same. Huskies when you said? Sorry.
Huskies, yeah.
You surprised me with that lower score total.
Yeah, I'm surprised about myself because I know Pac-12 teams don't play defense generally. But I think we'll see a lower score because the teams have played each other. They've seen each other. There's tape. There's film from this year. It's not the NFL where the Hawks play the Niners twice a year. I know the Hawks wish they didn't play the Niners twice a year, but I think there's more tape now than there was before.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think similarly, I'm 38-34 Huskies. I think it's close just like that. But I think it is another. I think it's just, the last two games have been just so similar.
Yeah.
And guess who made the big play to win both games? UW.
Yeah.
It's hard to beat a team, especially if Oregon's caliber twice in a year. And that prediction is not a disrespect to the Ducks because I think they're fantastic. And I'll tell you what,
good. They're so good.
I predict, UW wins. They go to the college football playoff, take on Michigan in the Rose Bowl, which will be amazing.
Oh yeah.
But I predict on that note, Oregon goes to the Fiesta Bowl and beats the brakes off of Penn State or somebody like that. Like they'll win by like 3 touchdowns.
So yeah, basically new future Pac-12 teams will play. Future Big Ten teams will play actual Big Ten teams.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. Yeah, honestly, the Penn State slot there is a little more wide open because the Fiesta is kind of just 2 teams in the top 12.
Sure,
but and Oregon would stay there even if they got trounced by the Dogs because
I think
you lose 2 games both to a semifinalist. It's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think that I think UW's being disrespected.
Oh yeah, you got to put some respect on the name, man. It's because of all the close games. Honestly, I alluded to it.
Which is so silly. They won.
Yeah, well, I alluded to it at the beginning of the podcast. Because I looked at UW's schedule, and yes, Huskies fans, I don't have to tell you guys how every game has been stressful since the Cal game.
Yeah.
But look at your schedule though. Okay, Arizona, you won by 7. Arizona is actually a pretty decent team. They're not ranked.
Yeah,
but their record-wise are pretty decent. Arizona State, say what you will. That's Arizona State. Clutch is as Clutch does, Stanford, that was a 10-point game. USC, that was a 10-point game. Caleb Williams could get invited to New York too as well. Utah, very good, ranked. Oregon State, very good, also ranked. And these games were all in the Cougs also. Very good, not ranked, but also when it's the Apple Cup, who cares about rankings after?
Yeah, no, like, so it's and Najee, every one of those scores you mentioned, it took a championship caliber performance to win, and they're against ranked teams. It's not like you're doing this against Sacramento State.
Nope.
No disrespect to Sacramento State, they're a good program, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's against the top 10, 15, 20 teams in all of college football, and I think that's
and it shows the strength of the Pac-12 this year. And it's like final.
That's such a
fully
shame.
Stocked year. We don't know what really kind of lies ahead for guys like Oregon or for teams like Oregon State and Wazoo. But just think about it for a second. This is the best case scenario for the Pac-12 with all these teams being ranked at the end of the year. Gosh, and then this championship game is probably gonna be the tightest championship game we'll have all in the in the postseason here. Alabama and Georgia will be great, but let's face it. This is it. This is it. And it's been it for the Huskies. They've been in playoff mode since August. Or not August, but since early October, Yeah.
So it's a shame that this is the last Pac-12. The disrespect thing, that's going to get solved on Friday.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for that.
Yeah. Well, we talked about how we're 2 teams in the same boat, one going one way, like the Huskies, one of them.
One dog's going east, the other one's going west.
Yes.
Do you know where that's from?
Where is that from?
Goodfellas.
Oh. See, I've never seen Goodfellas.
Oh.
I know.
No.
I've seen Casino.
You're from New York.
I know.
Gosh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Casino's good too.
Casino's good too. I've seen Godfather, Scarface, but I'm missing Goodfellas. We're talking about the team that made some of us not be able to finish the Thanksgiving dinner on Thursday night with their performance against the Niners at Lumen Field in those jerseys. I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks. They play again Thursday night special against the Dallas Cowboys in this is the second coming of these beautiful throwback jerseys that they beat the Browns in earlier this year.
Can't wait.
Let me
Can't
tell you,
wait.
if the Hawks don't change back to these jerseys, I don't know what to tell you. I love these jerseys so much. We're talking about the classic jerseys from the '90s, the brighter blues, the brighter greens, the brighter silvers. We'll love to see it, but what we will love to see even more, gosh, what we need to see even more is a Hawks W, Niko. What's going on? I mean,
It's hard to say. You know what?
the Niners are the Niners, but
Let's
what's going on?
Let's listen in. I talked with Evan Brown, Seahawks starting center.
Right.
Let's listen to what he has to say, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Because I've got a few thoughts, but I think he touches on some good notes as well.
Okay.
Of the Seahawks, the Virginia Mason Athletic Center, and we're joined by starting center Evan Brown. Evan, thanks for the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's another early week. What has the message been from Coach Carroll as you get into another game? Try to bounce back from those 2 losses.
For sure, yeah. It's just, get back on track. It's a short week, and it's also not, it's a Thursday to Thursday, so you still have the 7 days to get ready prepared. So, we're just treating it like any other week.
Without giving away too many state secrets, what's been the big thing you're trying to clean up, put those 2 losses behind you?
Yeah, for sure. It's, understanding, what we didn't do well, what we did do well, and, correcting the bad and building off the good.
Absolutely, and this is an opportunity against the good Cowboys. You guys are in playoff position, especially if you get some wins here. What is the mindset heading into this one?
Yeah, I think it's, they got a great defense, and it's, controlling their guys and their speed that they have and doing our best to take care of that.
I don't want to say fun because that's not the right word, it is work, but how fun are these opportunities? They're championship caliber matchups, whether it's the Niners, the Cowboys, Niners, Eagles, so you can go down the list. What's this like going out in the field and put on that helmet and trying to get these opportunities to come through?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, when it comes down to it, it's, grown men playing a kid's game, and, you can't beat it. You love going out there every Sunday and being able to compete.
Evan Brown, best of luck Thursday,
Definitely.
5 p.m.
Appreciate you.
Hopefully you get the win. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so that was Evan Brown. We appreciate his time at the Virginia Mason Athletic Center. Najee, we were listening to that, and I just, first of all, I love how Evan's just this cool cat, right? It's like, we're grown men playing a kid's game. Like, life's good. Even while, if you go on, like, social media, it's just, like, meltdown mode for the Hawks. In fact, we did a poll after the Ravens game when we showed it in this show, and there was 4 choices. Are you in panic mode? Are you nervous? Are you unsure or confident they'll bounce back? When they lost to the Ravens, the leading choice getter was nervous, and then panicked, and then or unsure were kind of like tied. Essentially, nervous got like 30-something% of the vote, and then everything else was right around 20.
Right.
That math doesn't add up, but I'm kind of giving you a generalization.
Math does not math, but it's okay.
We did the same poll after they lost to the Niners. 54% of people voted, and it was around 750. I got to double check that. But 54% of those voters were panicked. Panic's a strong word. And then it was nervous. And then the distant third and fourth place was unsure. And I think like 4% of the vote was confident they'll be fine, which is also a strong statement given what we've seen. Najee, I think that the Seahawks are still a very good team. I think the playoffs, if they start today, they're in. But my goodness, there is a lot of stuff to clean up, and there is a very little time to clean some of those things up. Third down conversions, you name it. Go ahead.
I have a question for you, Niko.
Oh, I'm ready.
When was the last good game that the Hawks played?
It's a fair point.
Because I'm looking at the schedule, going back, I'm kind of refreshing myself. We do research for this podcast. I'm not sure.
Sometimes
we do research, and we talk about the Browns game. They won, yes, but that was the last second, not last second.
No, they had to drive down the last 2 minutes.
Last 2 minutes, right? The Ravens game, it wasn't last second for anything, except for my will to live. And we got the Commanders last second field goal. The Rams, that was a loss.
Yeah.
And the Niners, there was nothing last second about that. And then so we talk about they beat the Cardinals by 10 points in October. It's been a long time. And I will be the first one to say this. I've said this for weeks that the Niners are the class of the NFC. I don't care about the Eagles. I don't care about the Cowboys. The Niners just look at their offense, look at their defense, and just like I said, head, shoulders, not necessarily knees and toes, but definitely elbows and wrists. Yeah. Above the Seahawks. I mean, and we played the soundbite, and it makes sense, grown man playing a kid's game, but it's not something I would be saying if I was, if I just came from lost 2 games in a row, both against division opponents, have to face the 8-3 Cowboys on a Thursday, followed by another matchup against the Niners, and follow that against the best team record-wise in the NFL, in the Eagles. This could slip away from the Hawks fairly quickly, Niko. I mean,
and the argument for some is that it already is.
Yeah.
Do you think it is?
Well, we talked about the schedule. We've talked about the schedule, and we're in the middle of the stretch of the schedule that we've been talking about for weeks. Like, the Hawks need to just grab one. Just kind of sneak away with a win against the Cowboys. Sneak away with the win against the Niners. Beat the Rams, who they lost to at the beginning of the year. We cannot be in a situation later in the year when you're vying for a playoff spot, and the Rams have a tiebreak because they swept you this year. The Rams we're talking about,
That was, if they don't make the playoffs, the Rams game and the Bengals game are the two that you look at and you say, that's it.
Missed opportunities.
And Rams week 1 to an extent as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's week 1, but it's still a loss, and that's still a divisional loss. I don't know if I'm panicked because I'm picking the Seahawks to. I think this week is the week for the Hawks to beat the team. I think the Cowboys are a very, very good team. I can tell you, as someone who has seen the Cowboys play as a Giants fan quite often and over recent years.
Before the Giants had Tommy DeVito.
Before we had Tommy DeVito, of course. Not like the Giants are very good right now. Anyway, but I can tell you that, I think you'll find a lot of Cowboys and a lot of Cowboys fans are kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. They're waiting for something to happen. They're like, Dak Prescott hasn't been playing too well, maybe that will happen against this week. I don't know. I think we'll see Geno Smith and Pete Carroll right the ship. I mean, the Rams loss with this most recent one was a very heartbreaking one. It was rough. It was rough. I mean, you got Geno getting hurt in that one. I mean, the quick turnaround against to face the Niners on Thanksgiving in those jerseys, in the green jerseys. I mean, there's a lot happening here. I think you give themselves a full week to prepare properly against a team like the Cowboys, and I think we'll see the Hawks win, hopefully, because
they've been thrown for a loop by the schedule. Actually, all the guys were saying that they didn't even know what day Monday was when they were doing press conferences.
It's a gnarly schedule. It's crazy.
Quite gnarly. Yeah.
Combined with the week
I'm
4
with you. I think to the folks out there that are in panic mode, I'm not telling you how to fan because I get it. You lose 3 out of 4, and 2 of those losses you were completely out of.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, very early.
And then you made a nice little mini comeback against the Niners, but it didn't matter. You didn't complete it. And then the close game you lost to the Rams, boy, oh boy. I mean, that's not like a moral victory at all. You should have won that game.
Right.
I understand where they're coming from. I just think that, again, outside of the Rams game, this is a stretch we knew, as you mentioned, the whole time was going to be so crazy. And so I think any playoff prediction, because I can't say prognostication right now. I just said it.
You just said it. Good job.
With a will, there's a way.
That's a $10 word right there. Niko can say prognostication.
I think we had this exact same conversation on the show before.
I'm
having some deja vu. At any rate, I think that anybody who predicted the Seahawks would be in the playoffs kind of knew this stretch of games was going to be a bear.
Right.
I think when I was looking at it personally back in July, August, whatever, I thought the Seahawks were going to be 10-7, and I thought they were going to lose both Niners, Cowboys, and Eagles. I thought they were going to lose all 4 and still finish 10-7.
But you probably didn't expect them getting swept by the Rams.
Exactly. No, exactly. I didn't think I thought they'd beat the Rams both times. So that's kind of where the swing comes in. If you can get the Cowboys game, the point being that even if they were to lose to the next 3, which you don't want, because then you're suddenly
like the whole next
6-8.
Oh. Yeah, I could see
I
could see it happening.
You could, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it will. I think they'll get Dallas, and then they may lose to the Niners and Eagles, and you're 7-7.
And then
that puts you in position with 3 games left against the Titans, Steelers, and Cardinals.
And that Pittsburgh game is becoming less and less like a gimme.
No, it's at least here in Seattle.
Yeah.
But I guess the point is, if you can make it out of this stretch 7-7, and you have an opportunity to realistically finish 10-7, but more likely 9-8. That's going to get you in the playoffs more likely than not in the NFC, which is a little bit down this year.
Right.
When I say down, I think the teams are still good. It's just a little bit more. There's some parity.
Yeah, I think the best teams in the NFC are just kind of just top heavy.
Yeah,
I mean, you got the Niners, you got the Eagles. I think everything else is everything else.
Exactly, and that's who's listen. Don't count these guys out to pull off an upset. Maybe, I wouldn't bet on it personally, but I think it probably would be an upset if you're a 7.5 point dog against the Cowboys and you win, and I think the Seahawks will win this game.
Oh. Wow. Both of us. What are the odds?
They're
not good.
Many a times I have made predictions and they're based on the feel of the game. Yes, I'm aware of all the X's and O's. I know that Micah Parsons is going to be a nightmare for the Hawks to try and protect Geno and their other talented stars from.
Deron Bland.
I just got faith in Pete Carroll still. I
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah.
think he's a master motivator. I think that he is just this incredible coach, and he's got the guys ready.
Yeah.
And there's enough veterans on this team that they know what to do to bounce back. And there's enough rookies on the team that are green and naive that are like, you're not quite like grasping how urgent this situation is. Although Pete has preached that urgency, and he's definitely let it be known that there's a bit of urgency this week.
Yeah. These are games you have to steal, well, not steal, but when you're playing teams like this, you have to act, because the schedule, I wanted to just say that, it seems like the season just kind of started, but we're actually like about halfway through. I feel like more than halfway through.
This is game week 12 of 18.
We're way more than halfway through, so we got to start.
We're 66% through, essentially 2/3.
I think the Hawks will win this game in Dallas because they have to win this game in Dallas. They don't have any other choice. The Rams are kind of about 2 games behind them in the division. And like I said, you don't want to be in this position where you're tied against them. You have to, somehow. When Tennessee comes to town, they're not going to be. Oh, when you go to Tennessee, it won't be. You're not playing scrubs. You're playing actual NFL football players.
That one game playoff lead the Hawks have is over the Rams and Packers, and so obviously the Rams have the tiebreaker there because they swept the team.
And Jordan Love has looked better and better every week.
It's the same thing about the Huskies that I see with the Seahawks in this. Backs against the wall, but for a different reason. Backs against the wall for the Huskies from a standpoint, you got to win to get to the title chase.
Right.
Seahawks, you got to win to keep the playoff hopes alive. So different levels, I suppose, at least in this moment.
So let me ask you this,
I think they
Niko.
play their best when their backs are against the wall. Yeah, go ahead.
So let me ask you this. Given the schedule, given how much time has elapsed in the season, given that the Hawks is it the last team that's in the playoffs right now?
At the moment, yeah.
Right this second? Do you think they make the playoffs?
Yes, I do.
Things will have to happen.
I think they're going to go 9-8.
Yeah.
I think they're going to beat the Cowboys, lose to the Niners and Eagles. That puts you at 7-7. And I think they get 2 of 3. I don't even want to predict, but they get 2 of 3 from the Titans, Steelers, and the Cardinals.
Cardinals will be looking.
They'll beat the Cardinals.
Hopefully. Well, last week of the year, they'll be playing for something. And this could honestly, and this is a little hot take, okay?
Yeah.
What you want to be is at the end of the year, just like baseball, just like basketball, you want to be playing just like the Huskies have been doing all year, playing your best ball of the year at the end of the year.
Yeah. And I think they're going to start to hit their stride. Whether that leads to a run or not, I have no clue. But I think they're a playoff team, and I think they're going to make the playoffs. I do.
Right. I
have faith in it.
I have faith in your faith. I hope that you're right.
What do you got for a score on Thursday night?
The thing is, if the Hawks win, I think they will. I think it'll be another close game. I think maybe 7 points.
I was going to say 21-20.
I was going to say maybe 28-20. The thing with Dallas is I just feel like
Reek Woolen blocks the potential game-winning field goal and it sends this team into a tizzy, and they go win some big-time stuff.
I think the defense for the Hawks will step up.
I do too.
I think you've seen Geno kind of have issues in the past. He's been hit a bunch. And the running game is not quite as Kane. I mean, what does Canine look like? It's as healthy. Is he going to be healthier now? Who knows?
Yeah, I think that when you look at this in the grand scheme, I think you're right. The defense is this team's
it's what it's
forte.
Yeah, and Dak Prescott is known to throw. Yeah, so fancy. And Dak Prescott has been known to throw picks, but then again, so has Geno Smith at the same time.
Yeah.
I think the defense for the Hawks will just step up. I think maybe the Cowboys may be looking a bit ahead, past this Thursday night game against the Seahawks. The Cowboys did just play this past Sunday, so they'll have a short week as well. Yeah. Same issues that the Hawks had again ahead of the Niners game. I didn't see that Niners game going any differently, by the way.
We kind of thought San Fran would win, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this could be a situation where the Cowboys have a short week. They may be looking ahead. They've got the Eagles, a division game after the Hawks. So I think the Hawks, there's chances that as the Hawks can just go down to Dallas, steal a W, and come right back, because I think that's the best case scenario for them right now.
All right, so we're both going with Hawks, Huskies win, and an epic podcast next week. What do you say?
Oh God, I'll see you there, and all the viewers as well.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, the Sonics jersey this week. We'll see what we do next week.
I am wearing a Giants jersey or Giants
Tommy
sweater.
DeVito,
because We'll keep winning even though we shouldn't. I
There
guess.
you go.
Yeah.
We'll and you know what? Gino's gonna have a bounce back game, but 21-20 doesn't. When I say bounce back game, it doesn't have to be like crazy. It's gonna be a nice win.
Everyone who was just picking up Geno Smith off fantasy just now, Niko was like, pick him up, but like,
Don't start
him.
wait till later on.
Yeah.
Well, Najee, it's always a good time doing this with you. We're gonna be back in our normal mid to late week slot next week. It's just because we had the Thursday Hawks games
and then the Friday Husky game. So we'll be back in traction.
Like do this. Go Dogs! I have to like mess with my hands. I can't do it.
Oh my
I can't
gosh.
do it. Go Dogs!
Go Dogs!
And go Seahawks! Whatever that is. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.